So welcome back everyone to our second day. We had a great day yesterday. So let's just find out what's in store at the virtual Get Up to Speed with STEM day 2. Emily?
Today we are having a spotlight on first to fourth industrial revolution, rail and construction. These are all areas on the online platform as well, so if you've got time, go and have a look. There's loads of content in there, so if you're particularly interested in one of these areas, go and explore and have a look around.
That's great. So, and Janice, what else is there to see on the site?
Well, check the career stories out. We've got over 100 people's actually giving their stories on this page, and they're from apprentices right through to the chief execs and even retired people. Some really interesting stories if you want to go on there and find out what it's like to be an apprentice right up to it being a chief exec. That's the page to look at.
That's great, thanks Janice. So lots to see and do again, obviously. Our focus today is on first to fourth industrial revolution. So we've got another great array of speakers lined up who are going to talk about all things science, technology, engineering, manufacturing, from our history and our heritage through to modern technologies. But we're going to start with a focus on the science. So our first speaker today, or our first guest today, is Rahul Mandal, who you may well have come across if any of his Bake Off fans, and Rahul is going to talk to us about the science of baking. So let's hand over to Rahul.
My name is Rahul. I work in University of Sheffield in nuclear MRC, but I love to do research on another thing, and that's baking. Flour, sugar, some butter and some eggs. These are the basic building blocks of all these 3 bakes. But what makes them different is the quantity or the proportion you use to make them. And you use some added ingredients to put the air into it. I'm going to make a bread dough for something like a pizza. So I'm going to start with 250 grams of flour, 4 grams of salt, a teaspoon of yeast, 15 milliliter of oil, and then it goes with 150 ml of water. And you see, the more you work on it, the more you get this really lovely glutinous structure. So gluten is basically a type of protein. It's a combination of 2 types of protein, and they're all coiled up in the dry flour. As soon as you start water into it, they started to uncoil. And as they uncoil, they start attaching with each other and then create a long chain of gluten molecules. Now this dough is beautifully kneaded, as you can see, and I'm just going to prove it in a container. Our bread doughs have proven beautifully. You can see them, how much they have risen. This is all gluten. Did you see how stretchy the dough is? So divide it into half, and I'm just going to let it rest and prove again for another 20 minutes before I bake them. The breads are now nicely and beautifully risen. You can see the shine on it. I'm going to bake it for about 15 minutes. So now I'm going to make a Victoria sponge, and this is the first cake I made when I first started baking about in 2016. All the rising comes from baking powder. So there are 4 eggs here. It weighs about 260 grams. So I'm going to use 260 grams of self-raising flour, 260 grams of caster sugar, 260 grams of baking spread. There's no glamorous way of doing it. And I'm going to crack in 4 eggs. And now I'm going to put a teaspoon of baking powder in it. I'm going to add a little bit of vanilla extract. I have a reputation of making everything covered with flour and sugars. Oh no, I didn't. I'm going to divide the mixture and I'm going to bake it for about 25 minutes. Now let's talk about the science of baking powder and why the cakes rise. I mean, if you look at the cupcakes, then you can see all these little tiny air bubbles. Now, it all comes basically from the baking powder. It is a mixture of bicarbonate of soda, which is this one, and some form of dried acid like cream of tartar. I'm going to mix about a tablespoon of bicarbonate of soda. Actually, you know what? I wanted a big reaction. So this is alkali now. And the other container, I'm going to put some acid, which is in this case vinegar. And let's see when you put them 2 together, what happens. This is what happened. A lot of carbon dioxide is forming. All these bubbles are carbon dioxide. That's the exact reaction that's happening all the time in the baking powder as soon as it gets the heat. And that's what is creating all these little air bubbles. So I'm going to make a biscuit. For that I need about 150 grams of butter, 100 grams of sugar. And then you add 1 egg. You probably realize I quite like vanilla flavoring. So I'm going to add about 275 grams of plain flour. I was thinking to wing it, but I feel like that would be a bit too risky. I'm going to roll both of these halves, put it in the fridge for about half an hour, and we're going to bake it for about 9 to 10 minutes. If you think about the bread dough and how elastic it is, if you look at the biscuit dough, there is no elasticity in it. But it have the same ingredients apart from the yeast. But what you do in the bread dough, you knead it, so you develop the gluten. So today we made some cakes, some bread and some biscuits, and all of them consisting of very similar ingredients. They're consisting of flour, butter, eggs and sugar. But you see, depending on how you use in different proportion, they have completely different texture. So if you look at the biscuits, they're nice and crunchy, how the biscuit should be. If you break it, you can hear the sound. Now comes the bread. What we do in the bread is we use yeast to create lots of carbon dioxide, and then it kind of stretches the gluten full with all these little holes, which is like nice and spongy. If you press it, it's just nice and squeegee and it doesn't bounce back. Here the air is coming from yeast, which creates lots of carbon dioxide in it. And now for the showstopper, obviously the cake. And if you look into the structure, little tiny air bubbles around, and in this case it's coming from baking powder. I think baking is a perfect combination of different science subjects. It can be really good chemistry experiments, because think about the way acid and alkali reacts and create lots of carbon dioxide. That's what happened inside a cake. Think about making bread is a biology experiment where yeast is basically nothing but a fungus that creates lots of carbon dioxide. Or think about it as a physics experiment. It just follows Charles's law. It creates steam, and the steam expands when you apply the heat in it. So baking is a perfect way to do some science. Go treat yourself with some lovely baked goods and learn more about science. I'm not going to lick the bowl today, but if you have kids or flatmates who really love sweet things, feel free not to wash it and give it to them to have a lick around. It's actually quite delicious.
So welcome back. Thank you, Rahul. That's who'd have thought so much science in baking, Alex? So
well, he's brilliant. I love him.
Yeah,
I remember him from last year. He was
yeah,
fantastic.
Yeah. So for those who've just joined us today, Alex has joined us as our co-presenter for the day. So I'm looking forward to working with you all day, Alex.
Yeah,
so,
me too. It's good to see you, John.
Likewise. Yes, it's been a while. So we've heard a little bit about Rahul and how he's inspired by science, and it helps him by baking, and how it helps him in his day-to-day job being a scientist. He's had a fantastic journey so far, and now we're going to hear from another young person who's had really just on the start of that journey, Alex. But she's had a really interesting start to her career as an apprentice. Now, at the age of 21, she's finished her apprenticeship.
I was going to say, 21, that's fantastic.
Yeah.
Brilliant.
Well, not only just finished her apprenticeship, but she started a role as a marketing manager. So welcome, Katie. Tell us a little bit more about yourself.
Hi, I'm Katie Andrews. I work for CB Plus, and I'm Marketing and Communications Manager.
Great, thanks, Katie. So what does CBE Plus do then?
CBE Plus are a manufacturer based in Chesterfield that encompass 4 different services to give our customers a supply chain that's all in one place. So we make parts out of metal, which is called machining, that go into things like airplanes and cars, and we also plate them. So we take a piece of cheap-ish metal and we put it in a tank where it has a chemical reaction with the solution and gives it a coating that makes it last a lot longer under the sea or on a plane in a harsh environment.
Great stuff. So what's it like to work in the engineering sector then?
It's good. No day's the same. So I might come to work one day and we're making one thing like top floor, and the next day it could be something completely different. And you get to meet a lot of different people, different skill sets. Sometimes it goes over your head, but every day is a learning day when you work in engineering and you haven't got a background in it. So that's why I enjoy my job so much.
Great. So tell us a little bit more about your job then. What are your responsibilities? What do you do on a day-to-day basis?
So there's 2 sides to my job: marketing, which is communicating with the outside world. So I'd be making adverts for the company, doing email campaigns, writing social media, writing press releases that might go into magazines or online. And then the other side to my job is internal communication. So that's writing newsletters so everyone on the shop floor knows what's going on in the business, what sales team are doing, what finance team are doing. So that's that's my job. Is really communicating with everyone internally and externally.
Great, sounds really interesting and busy. So you come through the apprenticeship route, haven't you, Katie? So just tell us a bit about your own story and how you got from school to where you are today.
So after school, I was looking at doing my degree. So I really thought that was the way that I was going to go. That's what all my friends were doing. But let's start this question again.
That's all right.
All right. So after school, I did my A-levels at Thomas Rotherham College. So I did them in English language, geography, and sociology. But after that, I thought I was going to do my degree, but I was really bored of learning in classroom, and I'd had enough. I've been in the environment where you sit and listen to people all day, and it was completely educational. I was ready to do something a bit more. So I applied for uni, but I also started looking around for apprenticeships. So I found an apprenticeship at the Steelworks at Liberty Steel at Stocksbridge and Rotherham and applied for that. And when I went for my interview, I just got a real buzz from the engineering environment and everything going on around me. So I decided that when I got accepted for my apprenticeship, that's what I decided I wanted to do. So I went back on myself and did the same level education through my apprenticeship as I did at my A-levels, but it didn't really matter to me because I was doing something I wanted to do and learning something different. So after that, I did my apprenticeship in marketing to start with. And after 2 years doing that, I'd done a lot of different things, like held events in UK, abroad, organised them myself, got to go to them, met different people. And I also won Apprentice of the Year 2018. But after all that, I'd been on a real buzz and really enjoying my job. And then I went into sales. Management changed at Liberty Steel and the business changed, which is just a real life situation. People and businesses change. And there were no jobs in marketing. So I decided to put my feelers out and look for a different job to also complete my apprenticeship. I went to Workwise and asked them to help me find somewhere that I could complete my apprenticeship. But in marketing, what I enjoyed doing and I knew I wanted to do. And they put me in touch with Marie Cooper, who owns CB Plus. And within a few weeks, I'd come and had a look around the factory, I talked to them, and they offered me a job and also paid for me to finish my apprenticeship, which were great for me because I got to do exactly what I wanted to do and get my qualifications still I've been working towards. And then in summer last year, I finished my apprenticeship, which was a great feeling after 3 years of working hard on it. And I then was promoted to marketing manager. So I've come a long way since leaving school. It's been a whirlwind and non-stop, but I've got to where I am today.
Great stuff. And what do you love most about your job, Katie? What makes you get up in the morning?
They're two different questions. What I love most about my job is people I work with, internally and externally. So I work with charities like Workwise, Vulcan to the Sky, customers, different networks like Made in Yorkshire and Made in Sheffield. I get to work with lots of different people and just seeing into different people's lives and what they do, I get to talk to them about it. So that's what gets me out of bed, is talking to all the different people all the time and finding out more about what they do every day. But also what gets me out of bed is like when you know you've got stuff to do, the feeling of success when you actually achieve the goal that you've been trying to do. So I might be working on something for 2 weeks and at the end of it, when it's done, it's been sent out or whatever, and it's gone well, just the feeling you get inside, like the pride in yourself, that's what gets me out of bed.
Great stuff. So what advice would you give, Katie, to young people watching today who are thinking about life after education and starting their own career journey? What would you say to them?
I'd say to take your time to look around and get involved in as many different things as you can, get exposure to different sectors and job roles, because until you've done it, you don't know what you want to do. But don't feel pressured to go down education route because that's what school says and that's what your friends are doing. Take a look around apprenticeships because I wouldn't be where I am today without doing my apprenticeship. And they do them in everything. Engineering apprenticeships can be on the shop floor, or they can be in offices. It's in a business. It's not just a manufacturer just doesn't do manufacturing. It might do have a million different other jobs inside it.
Lovely, thanks. And one final question then. So, have you got a final message for our viewers today?
Yeah, if you don't try, you don't know. So if you don't try something out, you don't know what's going to happen, and it can be scary to try new things and think, oh, I really want to do this, but never think, oh, I can't do that. You can do that. I always used to think at school, oh, I'd never be where I am today, but from taking chances and trying, I've got to where I am. You don't just do something overnight. You have to make mistakes and learn from them and try again to get to where you want to be.
Thanks ever so much, Katie. It's always a pleasure to talk to you and hear about your amazing story. So, Alex, what do you think to Katie's journey?
Do you know, she blows you away, doesn't she? Her confidence. But what I really loved was that she has recognised that, yes, she's come to the end of her apprenticeship, but she's still on a learning journey and she's quite happy to do that, you know, and not feel like she's in this big wide world where she has to know everything. And she's obviously being well supported, so that's great.
Yeah, great stuff. So it's great to hear from Katie. We've got some more stories similar to come later. So join us at 11, where we'll find out a bit more around the rail industry and also around working in construction. So we'll hear some more people's stories and what it's like to work in those two sectors. So please come back and join us at 11 o'clock. And Alex and I'll see you then.
Yeah.
Sheffield is home to an advanced manufacturing park, and the area as a whole has a key role to play, I think, in our aim of making the UK the best place in the world to do science.
The North Star, the St Paul's Way Summer Science School and the Well North Enterprises Partnership encourages innovation and opportunity to inspire your generation. Our vision is for the UK to become the best place in the world to practice science, technology, engineering, arts and maths.
Landing checks. Undercarriage. Down 3 greens. Brakes. 4,200 green. Fuel. It's good. We've got 13,500 pounds. Landing lamps. Can go out, I suppose. Flashing arrival. Can't be finals. Yeah, no.
Gaining qualifications is a key stepping stone to future employment.
It's important because you never really get these opportunities in life, and it really helps with your future more than you think it will. On your CV, your confidence will improve a lot. From these 4 days, you can see a difference between everyone you've met.
But qualifications alone do not guarantee success in finding, keeping and progressing in employment.
I think it really helps young adults to develop their skills and become more employable. tell the future careers.
Our Summer Academy gives young people the opportunity to gain key skills and attributes that employers are looking for.
Personally, I think I've gained a lot of confidence, self-esteem, and that will definitely help me out in the future. Plus, I've also learned how to write CVs, which I didn't know before.
Our week-long, fun and interactive programme is designed for students aged 14 to 18 who are keen to get a head start.
I have more knowledge about jobs and how things work, especially engineering.
Join us this summer and discover the world of work.